And one of the things that's most critical to a city when a storm is approaching is keeping critical facilities in operation. And we are a meds and ed city, so medical institutions and educational institutions, and bouncing back as quickly as possible. Business continuity is a huge driver. So while the probability of predicting when that storm hits is a challenge, it is not, when it does hit, it is a catastrophic damage. And if you ask any business owner in Boston or in New York about what's the value of getting back 48 hours faster or not being down at all, that's huge.
Mayors are, at the end of the day, first responders. You know, they get to do some things that are fun, but at the end of the day, they have to pick up trash and fill potholes and respond to constituent calls when power lines go down and all of that nitty-gritty day-to-day stuff. And I think that the mayor really saw that we had systems and infrastructure in the city that were really outdated, and we needed to take a new and more integrated approach to how we were going to be facing some of these investments and issues over the next decade, 2 decades. And our plan has forced us to think about energy in a way that we hadn't necessarily been doing before. Both our energy as a municipal government and what we use to kind of power our operations and our buildings, but also starting to think about the systems that exist in the city and how we can be smarter kind of looking forward and how we bring kind of power our city and what those systems are that can kind of stand the tests of time and then this new extreme weather that we're seeing. So we're lucky to have Veolia in Philadelphia and one of the largest district energy systems in the United States. And I think there's a level of sophistication that's coming about in thinking about how district energy can be a part of this next phase of powering cities. I think we're also starting to see a shift now in typically people think about, you know, first cost and annual costs around various energy options. And I think that another trend emerging in cities is greenhouse gas calculations. We're starting to voluntarily, you know, both report out and track what greenhouse gas emissions are. I'm going to be talking a little bit about that with Veolia because we've seen some real gains in our greenhouse gas goals because of Veolia's investment.
For too long, many of the districts in the country, even the big urban districts like Boston and Philly, have been a silent partner in the energy infrastructure realm. And in places like Boston, for example, and Philly, going back some 5 or 6 years, we just really started to develop a partnership with the city. And it begins with just understanding what infrastructure is existing to begin with. It's nice to know that in places like Boston and Philly and Baltimore and New York, you know, more than half of the heating load of those urban districts are supported from district energy systems that are fed by CHPs. And it's amazing to find out really how many people in the city community, in the business community, don't know that. So they don't recognize they're sitting on that type of infrastructure.
As developments are coming online, there is always the default to go to the path of least resistance. And if that's building out the same infrastructure that we've always had, that's what all new ideas are always pushing against. So helping us, helping your regulators, helping your partners understand how to make sure that the best idea actually becomes the path of least resistance. And if it's district energy, what are the hurdles that we need to overcome ahead of time, before the project is ready, so that the best actual energy efficiency technology from a resiliency, climate change perspective and cost perspective is the one that gets built.
I think we need to think bigger. You know, we've always been good at nibbling. So there should be no new patches of cities that are either developed or redeveloped that don't have district in them. They just shouldn't exist. They should all have a district at their heart, and they should have some form of, you know, green solution, whether it be CHP or the like, or some kind of, you know, solar peaking, whatever it is, but it needs to be part of the solution. So think big.
I think now's the time to be talking to people and, you know, be out there more, be out there talking to city people, be out there talking to the private sector, have the private sector push the city, have the city push the private sector. But I think more education and more visibility is really important.
We can't let what we think in the near term is possible restrict our thinking about what is necessary in the long term. And so what I mean by that is, you know, I wouldn't think 5 years out, Rob. I would think 40 years out. So most of our goals as cities around both climate action and around economic development have 2050 targets.
Right.
So take our full build scenario in our city and take our climate action goal and then come to us and tell us what type of energy grid we need and where district energy makes sense in that grid. And don't restrict yourself to thinking of only what current regulations or current permitting would allow to happen. Let's work backwards from what's necessary and start the question from how do we get there.
when the city comes to you and offers those type of solutions because of a greater understanding of what can be done, but for the barriers, you've come to a new day.